What's poppin', everyone? VenomousStare back with more StarCraft 2 action. This time we have a finals match between Maru and Dark. These are two top-tier Korean pro gamers who have really been at the forefront of the scene since Heart of the Swarm. And quite frankly, I'm exceptionally excited to cast this finals match, which is a best of 7 between these two legends. So let's get right into the intros. Spawning in the top left of the Terran favored map, Backwater, it's Dark, the Korean macro Zerg, the intellectual successor to Nest-T, and an incredible player. In the bottom right, we have the player who many people sort of perceive to be as the successor to Marine King Prime. So in a weird way, we sort of have a rematch of the second GSL finals ever, Nest-T vs Marine King Prime. The sort of infallible macro Zerg who will always do what it takes to get to the late game and is very strong at defense and reading his opponent. Versus the plucky, micro-based Terran player who loves to overwhelm players with aggression. Now, I know I haven't made videos as consistently as I have been in the past. I've been pretty discouraged with the ADL taking over YouTube, and I haven't really had a lot of inspiration to make videos. I was actually going to make a video after I got Masters League, and I got one game away multiple times and sort of got discouraged. But this finals made me say, look, StarCraft is really fun to play and really fun to watch. And even if I didn't get into Masters League and there was no, oh, here's my Masters League video for this season, I wanted to showcase these games. Because even though I haven't seen any of these games and I have no idea about the result of them, to me this sort of is like the bread and butter of StarCraft 2. This is Zerg versus Terran. This is a strong macro Zerg who is just trying to get up a bunch of bases and a lot of drones, facing off against a Terran player who is always going to be attacking, going to be perpetually aggressive and annoying. And this is sort of what StarCraft 2 is about. This is what got me into the game. This is what made me start really liking StarCraft 2 as my primary game. Terran versus Zerg. Top tier Korean Terran versus incredible macro Zerg, and a matchup that is quite honestly certain to keep your attention, because the way it works is you just really have a lot of action throughout the game and you're never really in a position where you're bored. Proxy starport on the way for Maru. This is a medevac, so I expect this to be proxy Hellion drop as a Roach Warren's on the way here for Dark. Now I'm sure many of you know this, especially a lot of you veteran players out there, but Hellions sort of force Zerg to make lings, make queens, basically make stuff that aren't drones. If you make enough Hellions, sometimes you can even force roaches. Now, a big part of Terran versus Zerg and StarCraft in general is preventing Zerg from making drones. Unlike the other two races, Zerg has to pick and choose between workers or attacking units. The other races, Terran and Protoss, as we see a link die there. The other races, it's very simple. You just constantly make workers, and then your other unit producing facilities make units. With Zerg, it's a binary choice. You see a Hellion drop coming. Queens and Roaches here, though. I don't expect this to do too much damage. 2 drones go down, Spore Crawler coming. And this is the tricky thing about having Hellions dropped in your base, is you just miss micro a little bit and it can really go downhill. But a measly 5 workers die, and the Hellion drop was, I would say, it's about a dead even split, maybe a little bit in favor of the Zerg. We can see here with this proxy starport, Maru going into Tech Lab might opt to go for Banshee, and after the Hellion drop is denied, Dark is going to push across the map. This is something you see a ton. Zerg players holding off a big form of harassment and then just pushing. And as the proxy is found and the Stargate's Tech Lab starts to die, Dark is going to push across the map. The bunker falls. Maru has a tank out, but with virtually no bio here, this will be very tricky. Maru's going to hot pick up the tank, fly back here, drop the tank off. Repair is going to go down onto the bunker falls. Maru has exceptional micro here, So he does have a chance to hold, but there is just so much Zerg 16 workers have died, and another tank is out here. Oh, and the wall doesn't get up as a Ling was actually on top of it. So Maru is going to have to rely strictly on Micro here as he pulls a ton of SCVs, sieges a Liberator. More SCVs start to go down here, and it is looking very bad for our Saiyan Prince of Marines here. 2 tanks are out, and he can Micro very well, and I think it's on some level he's going to be able to hold this on a very, very basic level that doesn't really take account of workers or anything like that. But as we can see here, Dark doesn't have that many workers either. He's sort of operating off of not even 2 base economy. Depots going down here for Maru, and this always sucks as Terran whenever you lose a big fight and then Zerg gets to kill all of your depots. But this is backwater. The 3rd base is not going to die. It's not even really going to be in that much jeopardy because all you have to do is hold this choke on backwater. If this was a different map, Maru probably would have GG'd already. The starport is forced to lift. No Banshee was made. And very frequently whenever you see these heavy Ling, Roach, Ravager attacks, the crux of the issue is nothing shoots up, it's only the Ravagers. So Banshees really just decimate those sort of builds. But because the starport was proxied and it was found, that meant that no Banshees were able to be pumped out. The Zerg player Dark is going for Roach upgrades, 1-1 and speed. So whenever you see big scary attacks like that in the mid game, very frequently Zerg has to sacrifice things for that. In this case it was adequate drone saturation as well as upgrades as the Spire goes down. Remember that Dark has made about 20 drones between the time of that attack and the time of my statement. Maru is going to fly into the main here and try to get his SCV count back up. Double eBay as well from Maru, the Prince of Marines. And let's just click on the Maru cam for a second. As you can see, he is trying to do some drop harassment. Trying to focus that creep tumor, but it's unsuccessful. And the funny thing about Zerg here is that whenever you fall behind on Terran, you're in this weird position where you're always trying to come back. It's a very furious comeback motion where you're always trying to sort of poke and prod at the Zerg, but you have such a ridiculously inadequate amount of forces that you're never really going to be able to do anything. And that's what we saw from the Prince of Marines here, as he lost a ton of SCVs, he was forced to really play defensive, and the Zerg player sort of just bounded ahead, made a lot of drones. As we can see, Dark here is at pretty much 3 base saturation, working on his 4th. His ups are about to finish way before the Terrans, and that is so valuable, because if your upgrades are behind the Terrans, especially badly, like if they get 2-2 before you start to get your upgrades going, whether, you know, that be, oh, you're just now getting into 1-1, you're doing something like this where you get one range upgrade and then you go into melee. Oh man, it's so brutal. There's just really nothing that can compare to the feeling of, okay, I'm going to fight with my Roach Ravager army against 2-2 bio, and then all of your army just sort of dies. I'm going to blow my nose here as the mutas are going to fly in. We're on the Dark cam. So Dark is going to do some harassment here, and there are turrets in each mineral line. So he's going to try to harass the upgrades. Now I know I just spoke about upgrades, but killing the evolution chambers are one of those things that can be quite simply game ending whenever you're playing against Zerg. Because if these go down for the Terran player, and as Zerg you snipe these Evo, or these engineering bays, like I said, it's a really big deal whenever you can accumulate a big upgrade advantage, and if they lose the E-bays, sometimes you're almost guaranteed to go up 2-2 to 0-0. We can see in a game like this where Maru got 3 bases before he even got the E-bays, he's not really in a position where he can pump out 1-1 before 1-1 is finished for Zerg. And if Zerg was able to really do a lot better harassment and get in here, kill these eBays, and you know, +1's 80% of the way done, it just gets devastating. Maru is going to try to defend these tanks, and he does. Baneling speed's about to finish, as is +1 melee for Zerg. Now Maru has just done an exceptional job of, despite sort of losing the early game, not taking a bunch of follow-up damage. He didn't lose these engineering bays, excuse me, I keep calling them Evos. As Dark has a ton of workers here at the 4th, and he's taking multiple bases. A 5th is up, a 6th is on the way, a hive is up, ultras are capable of being made, chitinous plating's on the way. Really only the pathogen gland upgrade and greater spire is the only thing we don't see. Maru is going to stem and pick off creep here. This is always a great thing to do, as creep is incredibly important, a great source of map control for Zerg, and having a medevac out here to help clean it up is very important, because you can just simply pick up and run away when the ground army comes to stop you. Maru scans again, and notice that Maru's scans have been at the natural. Now there's a very simple explanation for this, and I'm going to reference my favorite player, the American Zerg, Greg Idra-Fields, who pointed out that once you achieve optimal saturation in your main in the early mid-game, 16 workers on minerals, 3 on each gas, you can rally everything out into the natural, all as far as drones go, rally-wise, and make all your drones go to the natural, and then just pull drones from your natural to make tech. And it makes it where you just get optimal saturation in the main, and then sort of just rally everything out to the natural, and you don't have to worry about resaturating your main base. Great example of what I was talking about with the picking up and running away from Maru there. And as Terran, this is something you should aim to do. If the Zerg doesn't make a lot of Hydras, if he doesn't have a lot of Mutas, doesn't have a lot of medevac counter, drop a lot, really force his hand with the medevac. The medevac is sort of this godsend Terran unit that a lot of people underestimate, because it's sort of been a cornerstone since 2010. Remember in Brood War you had to have the medic. The medic was just sort of this shitty ground unit that you had to make. And if you wanted to drop, you had to tech up the drop ship. In StarCraft 2, the medic and the drop ship have sort of been combined into one, allowing for marine-based styles to become incredibly popular and powerful. Terran players sort of underestimate this. I feel like Terran players sort of fall into this trap of their race has sort of been the most complete since the beginning of Wings of Liberty, and since Legacy of the Void they've gotten a lot of really powerful things, like Liberators, so they sort of just forget the bare bones sometimes. They forget how hard it is to defend, drop, harass. And you might be saying, well, you know, it's pretty hard to drop, and I would retort with, it's really not. You know, you load 3 or 4 medevacs up with Marines, you hold shift down and you queue up drop commands, and suddenly the Zerg is in a situation where they're being dropped in 3 or 4 locations at once as a ghost snipe goes down, and being dropped in, as we see, drops going down here over at the 4th, and these are shitty Zerg drops. Notice that Zerg not only had to morph these dropper lords, but more importantly, well, they can't be made into layer now, but that's not what I was going to say. More importantly, they can't heal. So you can't just drop off and win the fight because everything's healing. You drop the shit off and it's dropped off. One of the most annoying things in Terran versus Zerg is, yes, the stuff is being dropped off, but it's also being healed. So if you're at an upgrade disadvantage as Zerg and you have a lot of lings, you're in this horrible position where you just can't kill any of the stuff because the Marines are just being freaking healed by the medevacs. It's really rough. Maru has a beautiful army. Both players are nearing maxed. Dark has a huge bank built up, although it's mostly in minerals. Another scan on the natural as a greater spire as well as a second spire has gone down here. Both Evos researching. Beautiful play here from Dark, as a lot of creep spread has accumulated on a map where it is hard to spread creep, and Maru has been denying creep the whole time. So Maru's in this position where he sees the Zerg, has a very strong army, and he's in this weird little intersection where he's trying to build up to an army that's also very good, but at the same time, he also sort of wants to drop, But he wants to be making Ravens and Vikings and tanks, not really so much Marine medevac. So he's not really making units that are good for dropping. He's sort of trying to get into this late game tech, but he does need to drop, so it's very difficult. More scans going down. Maru trying to take another base. Creep sped being pushed out, and I really don't think Maru is going to be able to hang on to this. As Fungal goes down, it no longer snares, it just slows. And this is sort of annoying for Dark, as though he does have a very strong position. He has to be worried about overextending because it is Tank Ghost Raven, but there's no way in hell Maru is going to be able to hold this base. Dark is trying to take top right, and this has turned into a full-fledged macro game. Make sure you subscribe. This is a best of 7. 3-3 on the way from Maru, as +3 Carapace finished a long time ago for our Zerg player. +3 weapons just finished as well. He's upgrading very well on the ground. Our Zerg player is doing a great job upgrading. And siege tanks just get decimated by Broodlords. Pretty much the hard counter. And this is what happens in late game ZVT. Zerg sort of makes this army that says, okay, well, if you're going to go Liberator, Raven, Ghost, this late game composition tank, I'm going to have to make this long range unit, the Broodlord, to try to counter it. There is the Instacast Seeker Missile, and it does deal a debuff onto the Zerg army. I find it funny how Blizzard sort of said, well, you know, we don't want the Raven to be spammable, as we see a big scan go down and a nuke. So Maru, knowing that one of the best ways to break entrenched positions is to nuke, and this just isn't because of the damage of the nuke, but it is, quite frankly, because the nuke just forces the Zerg to do stuff. You can see the nuke there does jack shit except force the Zerg to move back, and this base does die. I assumed it would drop. And the Seeker Missile goes down. Wow, big fungals. Huge snipes going down right as I hiccup. And this is going to be a fucking nightmare. For Zerg, because we can see here, I have the hiccups. And a lot of his army got eliminated. Let me take a sip of water. Ravens are being made on a massive scale. I'm going to have to be really selective with my speaking here because I got the hiccups. Spores running forward. Dark is trying to bait Maru into a fight. And he has a scary Ling Bane army here. More Seeker missiles being pushed forth, and they do go out instantly. You can't really run away from them anymore. Ghost Marine coming out here. Expect big snipes. Bio stimming and decimating the Zerg army there. Another stim, and Maru's going to kite back. Dark turns around when he realizes he's off creep, and I'm going to finish this cast regardless of hiccups. We're freaking 19 minutes in when I got them. I'm sorry, but I can't really help it. Mid-cast, I'm going to have to fix it afterwards. +3 attack for his air armor coming out from Maru as he's killing the spores. Maru's doing a great job of playing defensively. Seeker Missile coming out on the Banes, and a lot of Banes die there as the Zerg is pushing forward, trying to break the Terran. Mass Banes running into Ghost Liberator. Lots of Hydra. As the Zerg player said, if you're going to go Ghost Liberator, I'll stop making Ultra and make Hydra. Unfortunately, Ghosts are obviously cloaked, and when you don't have an Overseer, that's rough. As we see lots of turrets here from Maru, doesn't want to get dropped. More CCs going up for Maru. So one of the things that Zerg tries to do late game is bait Terran into making kind of a bad army comp. And then they'll tech switch. Most common example of this, make a bunch of broods, make them make Vikings, then go right into ultras, because a bunch of Vikings suck against ultras. We can see that Dark here has really been fighting desperately to try to break Maru. This is part of why Backwater is so good for Terran. Sort of get like 4 bases and you only have to defend there and there. Maru is just trying to clear up the creep around his base. Every time he pushes out, he gets sandwiched, and because there are corruptors out, it's very hard to just pick up and run. Corruptor Hydra, very hard to move out against.
All hands to battle stations.
Now looking at Maru's vision here, it's very difficult. It appears as though Zerg has every base on the map.
Ready for dust off.
Man, these hiccups are just destroying me. Zerg has every base on the map, and you can't really do anything because they have so much vision. And we can see Maru steps about a foot outside of his base to try to clear creep. His bio gets surrounded, and he has to retreat. Now the thing about Ghost, Liberator, Siege Tank, Viking, it's like a god tier army. It's very hard to attack with. You can see Maru is just running some speedy bio out with medis, and the freaking bio can't even really clear creep. Dark has just had Maru way in the back of his base playing defense all game long. Again, Maru moves a step out. Insta-stopped. And notice that Dark isn't overcommitting. Essentially, as soon as Maru starts to do a bunch of Seeker missiles or run into his base, he retreats. Here we see some action. Bane's running forward. But into the PF he goes. And again, despite Dark's absurd income and absurd macro, he attacks and really doesn't do anything. And just has to fucking retreat. I'm gonna actually speed up a bit here because it's just more of the same and I have the hiccups. Both players are maxed. And Dark has like the whole damn map. Maru is literally just trying to clear creep. And Dark is just trying to end the game. Look at these upgrades by the way from Dark. Interestingly, every time these Hydras or whatever Zerg unit gets Seeker missiled and debuffed, to sort of prevent Zerg from attacking. So again, Maru is trapped in his base, but it's a huge defender's map, so he has an insane amount of income. That's why the game has gone so long, is the Zerg player Dark just can't finish him off. As we see, I mean really Dark can attack here and here for 4 bases, and then add one more location for another base. And he can't drop, he can't really Nidus. There's sensor towers everywhere. And nothing's going on here, that's why I'm not really focused on it at the moment. As we can see, Maru is trying to fight out of his base. But Dark just has too much. And I know I've kind of been saying that, but that's what we've been watching for the past 12 minutes. Is Dark has an insane economy, he's maxed, but he just can't finish the job. Ling Hydra's going to spring forward here. But again, with Liberators, with the PF, it's not going to be an issue. Double scan coming out, and notice that Dark just replenishes immediately. And again, Maru says, okay, well, I'm going to have to try to nuke you out of this position. Seeker Missile applying an armor debuff. And Ghost actually kills something. Dark is going to probably run in again, trying to kill Maru, realize that between the PF and all the other bullshit, he can't actually kill him. More Seeker Missiles going out. Every time I open my mouth, I hiccup. Ling Bane coming in here. And again, Dark sort of saying, wow, this is a really good defenders map. It's hard to kill Terran. Dark was up to 10k minerals at one point. And another little engagement. Double spell coming out for Dark, killing essentially nothing. As there are no other attack paths here. You know, Blizzard changed the Raven. They didn't want it to be spammable late game. They're like, we'll take this obnoxious missile with the really big splash radius, take some of the splash away, make it debuff armor instead, and make it instant. That'll make people stop making it, right? As we can see, every time Dark tries to do something, the Raven is preventing him from doing so. As more Lings are going to run in here, Corruptors are going to think about it, but there are a lot of Vikings. And more big Seeker Missiles coming out, and like I pointed out, you just can't engage into big Seeker Missiles like that. There's no way that you're ever going to win an engagement if you have this armor debuff. And this is sort of like the apex of play between two top Koreans at an international finals. And this is a great example of what late game Terran play looks like if the Terran knows what they're doing. Another nuke is coming down, but the Ghost dies. And we see again more energy being used here to sort of disrupt the Zerg army. Really nothing has happened on this entire map for the past 10 minutes. This base got dropped. And oh yeah, Dark made static after, as he should have done initially. And honestly, these Ravens are just preventing Dark from ending the game. All it takes is a few casts. There's no way to escape it. It's instant. And Maru can just sit behind Liberator tank, Viking, throw a few of these out, and Dark can in the game. As a few more Seeker Missiles come out and he runs away. I'm not a WCS caster. I'm not going to scream and pretend like this is like super entertaining, because this is like a mixture of sort of like boring and puzzling. His Dark has been ahead the whole game, and look at all the bases he has at this point. He's had them forever, and he's in this position where he can't really close. Now, one of the reasons is this map is a fucking joke. Backwater is just terrible. Another reason is the Raven. Blizzard can't really figure out what the fuck they want to do with this unit. They know that they don't want it to be massable and be able to just insta-kill any army with like super splash Seeker, so they remove that. But Blizzard if you go back and look at since the beginning of Wings of Liberty, Raven's always sort of been a joke. Like, I feel like Blizzard sort of expect people to use it like a science vessel, and this is the only fucking way it ever gets used. People mass it at the end of games, and it sort of becomes this really boring game. Now, I know that there's been quite a bit of action, as it looks like Banes are going to finally roll in from the top here. Maru's straight out of money. This position literally has no value at all. And Seeker Missile's going to be used. Maru actually has a couple more to use and doesn't for some reason. There he goes. He took an insane amount of free damage there for no reason, really. And he does clean it up. But he's pretty much out of money now. And this is sort of what perplexes me, is Blizzard says, well, we don't want the Raven to be massable at the end of games so people can just turtle on Ravens. What did we just watch? 15 minutes of someone sitting with their thumb up their ass on Ravens. For 15 minutes straight, Maru did nothing. He made Ravens, he sat at this base, and Dark, the Zerg player, wasn't able to finish. I mean, Maru did one little drop, but really nothing other than that happened. Anytime Dark tried to engage, he got fucked by these missiles going into his army. And I'm not saying like, oh, the Raven's in balance. Like, I'm not Zerg balance whining here, as Dark is almost certainly going to win this game, considering he had so many more bases, and he does. Maru taps out. But for 20 straight minutes, what the fuck did we see? This shit. Just a player, like, he can't attack anywhere because the map's a joke. But we saw a Terran player massing Ravens at the end of the game, and the Zerg was really unable to deal with that. The snipes weren't really an issue, the libs weren't really an issue. They were only an issue as much as, like, yeah, if I A-move all my stuff into that after taking a lot of Raven damage, it's going to be an issue. So I just don't see what the hell Blizzard was thinking whenever they said, well, the Raven counters everything and is massable late game. So then they said, we'll just make the Seeker Missile apply a huge armor debuff and be instant cast. It might not be as strong as the old Seeker Missile. It might be different. You might even be able to argue it's not as good, but it doesn't prevent turtling. Like, if it's instant and debuffs armor, like, what do you think? What the hell do you think people are gonna do? I mean, Dark literally won this game by saying fuck it, moving everything in, and just getting the Corruptors so close where the Seeker Missile splashed. And it didn't even really matter. So that, I mean, that's Blizzard balance for you. Same shit they did with the Infestor, where they say, well, we sort of think that there's a problem here, so we're going to apply a bunch of patches that don't really address the problem or fix it. And we're sort of in the middle stage now of Blizzard saying like, well, we're still trying to fix this unit, but we keep fucking it all up. I predicted in 3 months the Raven will have all of the same abilities, except the Seeker Missile it'll go back to being the same, except just worse. Sort of like the Infestor, where they said, well, oh, well, the Infestor, you know, it's a problem. So we're gonna make it where it can do all the abilities while burrowed, which was retarded, and then eventually just go back. Anyway, have a good day, guys.